In tonight's news edition, His Majesty swears in the new government of Prime Minister Hani al-Mulki. A royal decree defers Parliament's ordinary session until November the 7th. And Syrian forces launch a major ground offensive on a rebel-held district of Aleppo in their biggest assault yet. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. A royal decree has approved the new government headed by Prime Minister Hani al-Mulki. Next is the lineup of the 30-member cabinet, which was sworn in before His Majesty the King during a royal court ceremony. Hani al-Mulki, Prime Minister and Minister of Defense. Jawad al-Anani, Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs and State Minister for Investment Affairs. Hamad Nebat, Deputy Prime Minister for Services Affairs and Minister of Education. Nasser Joude, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriate Affairs. Salami Hamad, Minister of Interior. Hazem al-Nasser, Minister of Water and Irrigation. Adil Twaisi, Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research. Musa al-Ma'aita, Minister of Political and Parliamentary Affairs and Minister of State. Nabih Shuqum, Minister of Culture. Imad Fakhouri, Minister of Planning and International Cooperation. Ali Ghzawi, Minister of Labor. Mahmoud Shiyab, Minister of Health. Wajih Azaize, Minister of Social Development. Yassin Al-Khayyat, Minister of Environment. Walid Al-Masri, Minister of Municipal Affairs. Ibrahim Saif, Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources. Muhammad Al-Momani, Minister of State for Media Affairs. Sami Halase, Minister of Public Works and Housing. Majd Shweke, Minister of Information and Communications Technology and Minister of Public Sector Development. Omar Malhas, Minister of Finance. Rami Urekat, Minister of Youth. Fawaz Shedat, State Minister for Prime Ministry Affairs. Wa'il Arabiyat, Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs. Lina Annab, Minister of Tourism and Antiquities. Khalid Hnefat, Minister of Agriculture. Yusuf Mansour, Minister of State for Economic Affairs. Bishir Hani Khassaune, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. Ya'rub Qudah, Minister of Industry, Trade and Supply. Awad Mashaqbe, Minister of Justice. Malik Haddad, Minister of Transport. The ceremony was attended by Chief Chamberlain, His Royal Highness Prince Raed bin Zayed, the Royal Court Chief, the King's Advisor for Military Affairs, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Director of the King's Office, the King's Advisors, and the Royal Court Secretary General. After taking the oath of office, Prime Minister Mulki headed the government in its first meeting. Mulki congratulated his team on the royal confidence, stressing the cabinet has great plans in the next phase and pledged to do its utmost. The Council of Ministers decided to form its committees, top of which are the Economic Development Services and Legal Committees. Mulki also passed a directive that the Minister of Political and Parliamentary Affairs and the State Minister for Media Affairs attend all the meetings of the committees pending the issues on the agenda. Mulki told reporters that his cabinet will keenly pursue its work according to plans and programs set previously and will closely coordinate with the Parliament. He said the government will have economic, social and political programs to serve the country and bolster its stability and resilience. In his reply letter to the letter of designation, Prime Minister Hani Mulqi noted that the formation of the new cabinet followed parliamentary elections, which he called a political reform milestone fulfilled by Jordanians. He noted that the king has been keen to see Jordan vibrant, proud, brave and invincible, and to see its development process uninterrupted by challenges. Mulqi pledged commitment to take the royal letter of designation as a source of guidance in carrying out the national responsibilities to ensure that the country will continue progress and development at the present critical stage engulfed with challenges. He said full cooperation with the two houses of parliament, the Senate and the lower house, will be the government's approach. Mulqi said the government will hold elections for municipal and local councils next year to enable Jordanians to further participate and have a say in decision-making. The Prime Minister said the government will finalize the pending bylaws and instructions required to put the decentralization law into effect. Moreover, it is committed to implementing the royal directives regarding administrative reforms based on meritocracy and integrity, and will also combat nepotism that undermine justice and equality. Mulqi said the government realizes the massive economic challenge, having been exasperated by the regional developments, foremost of which is the Syrian crisis, which had a direct impact on Jordan at the security, economic and social levels. Such implications attributed to the refugee influx caused by events in Syria place pressure on resources, services and the treasury amidst declining external aid. Mulqi said the government will do its utmost to raise the GDP growth, reduce debt, enhance the national economy and its competitiveness, develop the business environment and create jobs for Jordanians. He also pledged to carry on with plans to develop education and healthcare and implement the energy strategy, which sets the objective of diversifying the sources of energy, implementing mega projects and liberating the oil derivative market. Regarding foreign policy, he said the country's stand on the Palestinian cause is unwavering, pledging continued support to the Palestinians to establish their independent state with Jerusalem as its capital. The government, he said, will do whatever is needed to defend the holy sites in Jerusalem in fulfillment of the religious and historical responsibility and the historical Hashemite custodianship on Islamic and Christian holy sites in Jerusalem. He also said the government will also support political resolution of all other regional and international issues, including Syria and Iraq, and continue supporting anti-terrorism efforts at all levels. A royal decree was issued deferring Parliament's ordinary session until November the 7th, 2016. His Majesty the King paid a visit to Sharif Abdul Hamid Sharaf Secondary School for Boys to check on its facilities and the workshops run by the school. During a visit to the school 3 years ago, the King instructed the Royal Court to carry out maintenance work and renovate the school's workshops. The royal visit comes within His Majesty's interest to develop education and vocational training, especially that this school, which was established in 1924, is the oldest vocational school in the kingdom. Under royal directives, vocational schools will be established in all governorates across the kingdom and will be provided with modern equipment designed for training. The King was briefed by Deputy Prime Minister for Services Affairs and Minister of Education Mohammed Nebat on stages of the renovation process that will reflect positively on the level of training for students. More than 1,000 people attended the funeral of Jordanian writer Nahid Hattar, who was laid to rest in his hometown of Al-Fhes. The coffin of the writer, who was shot on Sunday outside the Palace of Justice, was carried from his home in Jabal Webde in Amman to his hometown. Prayers were held at a church in Fhes during the funeral, attended by officials, political figures, and local leaders. Syrian forces launched a major ground offensive on a rebel-held district of Aleppo. It was the biggest assault yet in a new government campaign. The campaign aimed at wiping out rebel forces and retaking a city that is key to ending the 5-year war. Airstrikes hit a hospital in a rebel-held area, putting it out of service. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said those using even more destructive weapons in Syria are committing war crimes. He said the situation in the Syrian city of Aleppo is worse than a slaughterhouse.
Imagine the destruction. People with their limbs blown off, children in a terrible pain with no relief, infected, suffering, dying, with nowhere to go and no end in sight. Imagine a slaughterhouse. This is worse. Even a slaughterhouse is more humane.
Former Israeli president and elder statesman Shimon Peres died in hospital at the age of 93. Preparations began for the funeral of Peres, an influential figure in Israeli politics for 70 years. Peres was hospitalized following a stroke 2 weeks ago and died in a hospital near Tel Aviv. Despite decades of rivalry with Peres, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a right-winger, praised him as a stalwart of the center-left and a visionary. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas issued a statement saying he had sent a condolence letter to the family, praising Peres' efforts to reach out for a lasting peace. International prosecutors said a Malaysian airliner shot down in eastern Ukraine was hit by a Russian-made missile launched from a village held by rebels fighting Ukrainian government forces. The findings challenge Moscow's suggestion that Malaysia Airline Flight 17 en route from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur in July 2014 was brought down by the Ukrainian military. All 298 people on board, most of them Dutch citizens, were killed. The conclusions were based on thousands of wiretaps, photographs, witness statements, and forensic tests during more than 2 years of inquiry into the incident. The prosecutor cannot file charges. But victims' relatives have been seeking details of who shot the plane down in the hope that it might lead eventually to prosecutions over an incident which led to a sharp rise in East-West tensions. Real Madrid coach Zinedine Zidane could not hide his frustration after his side conceded a late equalizer to draw 2-2 at Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. Dortmund had wasted a series of chances to equalize, but Zidane still lamented his team's failure to kill off the game, having also conceded a late leveler to draw 2-2 at Las Palmas last Saturday. Dortmund and Real each have 4 points, while Sporting Lisbon are third in 3 points after beating visitors Liga Warsaw 2-0. And finally, it will be cool tonight with northwesterly moderate winds. Tomorrow, a slight rise in temperature is expected. Therefore, it'll be relatively hot in the valley and Dead Sea regions. Winds will be northeasterly moderate, while the Gulf of Aqaba should expect a hot day tomorrow with northerly winds and choppy seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. His Majesty swears in new government of Prime Minister Hanin Mulqi. A royal decree defers Parliament's ordinary session until November the 7th. And Syrian forces launch a major ground offensive on a rebel-held district of Aleppo in their biggest assault yet. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching and have a good night.